What's up, everybody?
Hey guys,
Hey,
It's Adrian here.
it's been a
Dom and
while.
Andre, LightShare, new episode. This is more of a casual one. I mean, which episode is not a casual one that we do? But I'm gonna have Andre's demo, I guess, in the background. He's modeling this wonderful sci-fi looking vehicle, spaceship. I don't know. You talk about it, Andre. I don't know.
Sure. Basically, I am detailing a 3D model of my next personal project. So since I had to do this anyways, I thought we'd just take advantage of the opportunity and have this
Cool.
on while we talk. The model is not like anything to write home about, but if you guys have any questions about the modeling process or whatever, just leave those in the comment and we can answer them afterwards.
Yeah, so today our topic is going to be about students' critiques and how, we shouldn't be blind to the compliments that we get on our work. We should take more feedback from professionals and implement them to our work so we can improve better. And yeah, there's just this thing going around with beginner artists, new artists who, see compliments and they kind of feed into that. Can kind of like elaborate on that more.
You mean this sort of like echo chamber effect, in our communities where, you share some progress with your peers and they're not necessarily industry veterans, right? So it's like the classic, yo, that looks so cool, dude. But, as a standard, as an objective way to look at it, is not industry ready, let's say. So how much of that would be subjective interpretation of like, but I like it, I think it's cool, I think it's amazing, and how much of it would be like, hey, it's objectively incorrect, you would not get a job with this? Because I feel like that's what's going on most likely, and we've been there, all of us. We've been in the very beginning where you go from 0 to 1 to 10, 100 being like the requirement for landing a job, and you're at 10 and you think you're some 70 or 80 already, right? Because you've made such a huge, big progress from your last step. So now you can do environments, like in perspective and stuff. You feel like on top of the world, but there's no design, there's no values, there's no, I don't know. There's a lot of stuff missing. However, you're under the impression that you're way better than you actually are. And I feel like that's the main driving aspect in this down spiral effect that kind of fools you with the illusion that you're better than you actually are. So I don't know, like, what would you guys say is like an important humbling practice that you can approach it with to kind of give yourself an accurate image of what your level truly is?
I think for one is just like putting professional work next to your work, and like we said, benchmarking your work to someone in the industry. This is if you want to self-critique yourself and you have no really much guidance from a mentor or something. This is like one of the best ways to do it is, just taking pro work and seeing like where you fall short next to the pro work and fixing it as you go. Or just getting a mentor and roasting you.
That works.
It's like one of the
also,
easier ways.
yeah, if you don't have access to a mentor, like I think being realistic about what the critique that you're getting it, what is the goal of that critique? Because if you're getting critiqued from like a couple of friends that also haven't made it into the industry, the reality is that they might not really know what they're talking about. So if you want to get a sort of like a motivation boost or you want to share your work to show that, hey, I'm working on this and I'm happy about the fact that I'm actually putting work in, instead of being happy about the result itself. Like trying to understand what's the difference between each. So let me rephrase this. If I get a critique from like one of you guys, what I'm looking for is to improve my artwork and like get better and everything like that. So the idea is that the goal of that critique is not to get a like huge motivation boost, you know, because the idea is that you guys will point everything that is wrong about my drawing or my design or whatever, and
that will sting most likely.
That, yeah, exactly, because you put effort in, right? So like you just put some effort into a piece and then you summon a couple of friends to shit on it.
Yeah,
that is not fun.
Because basically you've been trying to make this right, and now I'm telling you it's wrong, so it hurts, right? Because you've put a lot of effort into trying to make it right, but I'm telling you it's wrong. So I think it's an interesting exercise of like self-awareness as well, and trying to kind of become like an observer instead of living inside of your mind with like, this is my painting and he's attacking it, you know? Like instead of that, if you truly want to grow, it's exactly what you are trying to talk about, Andre, which is try to look at it objectively, right? Like, yeah.
And then I think it's fine to ask for your buddies to like critique your work and to give you advice and everything. And even to, let's say that you have some friends that are good at one particular skill set that you are not good at. That's a way to grow, you know, like you ask for them to teach you that particular skill set, and then you teach them what you're good at, and everyone like grows together. But the idea that those same friends that still haven't made it into the industry, even in a small way, you know, the idea that they will give you super valuable advice that will help you become like extremely successful or help you achieve your goals, that is the like unrealistic part, right? Because you want someone that actually achieved something to give you advice. And I'm not saying that their perspective is worthless. It's just that it has a different context to it, right? And you want someone that has the context that, okay, I got hired and this is what I did on my day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, why you see a lot of people that are sick and tired of the like keyframe kind of concept art. And they're like pushing people to do the technical drawings or the call out sheets and that sort of thing.
Props and stuff like that.
And students, like, they do have a tendency. Like I hadn't, prior to start having some sort of learning, teaching experience, I actually had no idea that it was such a big issue, because I saw like a lot of people complaining about, hey guys, if you're a student, just do like call out sheets, show that you think about the design that you're doing. And now that I teach,
also go on, I'll explain later.
No, it's just like I had no idea that it was such a big issue that people were not doing those things, because to me it was kind of obvious, you know, like, okay, this is what the day-to-day work requires. Someone that actually works in the industry is telling you that, so you should take their advice. Now that I teach even like small classes and stuff, I can see why people are so keen on pointing that out, because it is like, people don't want to do call out sheets. They don't want to do the boring work per se. And what I tell them is basically like, okay, so if you don't want to do this, like, that's perfectly fine, but then you don't want to be a concept artist. You know, like and it's fine if you don't want to be a concept artist. You just need to have the clarity, you know? You just need to understand what it is that you're pursuing with the work that you're doing. Even someone like me who does like a lot of the pretty paintings per se, like I still have to do call out sheets as well. Like on the job, like at work, I had to do props and stuff, and they required call out sheets and material. What's it called? Like putting the material to the prop, whatever. Yeah, a material sheet, a reference, right? Yeah, I had to do that too, along with the paintings. So if you want to do a pretty painting, just make sure that you at least call out the stuff in the painting, right? So if there's a building, call out the building in the painting, or if there's a vehicle, call that out, character, etc.
And then your portfolio will feel more whole and cohesive. It's not just the painting itself. So it has like some supplemental images.
Yeah, and it will also push you to think about the things that you're doing, right? You're not just, let's say, selecting something because it's pretty, right? You're thinking it through and showing that you can give instructions to the rest of the people in the pipeline to actually make whatever it is that you design happen, and that it translates like pretty well to the final product. I see a lot of issues with like the translation between 2D and 3D. And a lot of those happen because the concept artist didn't provide. I mean, of course, that everyone needs to take their share of responsibility. So I don't want to throw it all into the concept artist's hands. But the way that I try to approach it is assume that the guy that will pick this up from you doesn't know shit about what it is that you're doing. So it needs to be abundantly clear, whatever it is that you design and how to construct it and what materials to use and all of that. Because that will be really the difference between the design being translated well versus not.
Yeah. Just put in like different views, call out 3/4, front, back, side, and yeah, pretty simple.
You would think, right?
Yeah, until you do it, then it becomes stressful.
Yeah, and also it's really not like the most fun part of the job, Like I know that people get like super bored about
it's
those
not supposed to be, yeah, but it's necessary.
Exactly.
The reason I can see why it's confusing, especially in the very beginning, is because all you perceive are people making pretty pictures, and they call it concept art. And they are people who work in the industry, right? So that's what this job is about, right? Making pretty pictures. So you try to do the same, and then someone else tells you, "Hey, you're not doing it right." But I've seen it. This is what they do. So they get a warped perception, a warped view on what this job is, and they try to imitate that, and then they're corrected, and it hurts. So I can see why, because what they see on the surface is that pretty picture, right? They don't ignore, but it's harder for them to see the design aspects behind that, right? They absolutely, I guess that they do ignore that, the other call out sheets and stuff like that, where they design the crane and the wheel and this house here and the building exploration for the architecture design and stuff like that. They just see the final picture, the final shot, which is just meant to be as a presentation shot, right? But the design is in everything else. So that's what I see it like. They're so focused on that final shot that they even start with it. So they start the house by the roof instead of focusing on those other fundamental aspects of what creates that final image. And there's a whole world from designing those props to getting to that final stage, that final image, the presentation thing. There's a whole world that we're talking probably months of learning, right? To learn how to do that, if not years. And when you talk like this, what, years? But I thought it was going to be faster. Like, all I have to do is to practice some cubes in perspective, right? And then, I take some design courses and no, dude, it's going to take a lot longer because...
Yeah, good luck with that.
Years of observing.
Exactly.
Yeah, dissecting.
We were talking about
stuff.
that. It takes time for you to absorb, like all the observations you make, like trips you do and day-to-day stuff. You observe the stuff you're most obsessed with and passionate about. Like you're studying perspective right now, so you start to see it everywhere. Your keyboard is looking like this specific thing that could be some design prop. I don't know. Like you start to see it almost looks like a city, you know, with like buildings lined up and streets and stuff like that. I'm talking only about your keyboard, but you start to see that thing almost everywhere else, in your house, your apartment, in the park, everywhere, anywhere you live. And then you start to exploit these passions you have for what you're studying, and you put more and more effort into it, and then it gets you somewhere, but you won't get anywhere without that discipline, without that continuous dedication to the craft, which is what unfortunately a lot of people nowadays seem to lack, because they're easily sidetracked or distracted by some other shinier toy right down the road. And I think we were just talking about this before we started recording, but people are easily distracted by other stuff, you know, like they like the sport, right? Oh, I want to be as good as you one day. And then you tell them, this is how you train for this. And they're like, yeah, I'll do it. And then when it comes down to actually training, they make excuses. It's 4 a.m., it's dark outside, it's raining, it's cold, it's not nice, and you're tired. But it's time to train. You said it, right? Where's all that motivation? Yeah. Remember? You said, yeah, I'm going to do it. And now it's time to do it. So this is where they kind of try to run from it, right? They try to run away from it. And it's this I'll do it tomorrow kind of mentality, you know? Because tomorrow never comes. And soon...
Yeah, doing tomorrow kills dreams, dude.
Exactly.
Gotta start today.
You gotta do it now.
In the now.
It doesn't have to be perfect.
Present.
You know, just pretend like you're doing the real thing. Just pretending gets you there, you know? This is not the fake it till you make it kind of thing they say. I'm just saying, pretend like, okay, I'm gonna sit down and sketch for like 5 minutes. Believe it or not, that ends up into a 1 hour long session where you actually did something that you're proud of. It's not necessarily your most perfect, epic masterpiece, but hey, I'll do better tomorrow, knowing that I've already showed up today. So it's a start, right? You want to run a marathon. You've never done anything, running or anything like that, and you're pretending that you can just train for a couple of weeks before the marathon, having not done anything before. It's not going to work. You know that. Just start today. Go for a walk, you know, and go for a walk again tomorrow. Extend it the next time. And soon enough, your body adapts to it. And your mind does this funny thing where it's like, hey, this was hard before, but now it's like not even enough to get me started. So then you need to up your level and increase the difficulty level and kind of up your game. And that's how you scale, right? And soon enough, you're running 5K as your normal regular training. And then you try a 10K on one weekend, and then 20K. And soon enough, it's game day. It's the marathon day. This is what you've been training for. And that's when you show up with a larger baggage of preparation, as opposed to your delusional 2-week training, super strategy, you know, secret formula thing that you read in some book or you got from some course or whatever. Like, it can't be faked. You know, that's what I'm trying to say.
I wanted to clarify the point about the pretty pictures thing that a lot of juniors have this misconception about. So that job is mostly reserved for the seniors and like the principal concept artists, right? The much higher end of the spectrum down the pipeline. So it's possible to get that job, even though there's like a very slim margin to actually get a keyframe artist job. But like, you gotta just be pumping out keyframes if that's your go-to track, right?
Yeah, I also think like you need to understand where in the pipeline it comes in, right? There's like the blue sky phase where that happens quite a bit, but there's also like, okay, after that is designed, do you want to stick around in production, or do you want to just like do keyframes and then, I don't know, leave the project for however much time? You need to understand where you fit into the production. Like having a plan for that is actually quite nice in terms of the planning of your own career, you know?
You could go into color scripts like how I did, but a lot of people I don't think would want to do color scripts. They just want to do keyframes. But color scripting is also like an integral part of animation, for instance, like for the lighting artists and the 3D lighting team. You know, they need those for the lighting stuff. But if you just strictly want to do keyframes, it's gonna be a lot harder, I think, especially for film. You know,
maybe you guys can help me with this, because I have this feeling of like you're trying to help someone else, right? But just teleporting them from the base of the mountain to the top is going to do them no good in the long term, right? Because the climb itself is what makes those views at the top valuable, right? If you hand someone a large sum of money suddenly, they're likely going to lose it because there was no process involved in building that wealth, right? So it's very common with lottery winners and stuff like that. So what I mentioned, what I meant by this thing is that whenever I'm addressing someone like this, some beginner, someone interested in learning more about this thing that I consider myself more experienced with, I feel like I'm talking to myself from the past. I feel like I'm addressing the young Adrian that was so eager to learn about this, and there was no one around to teach me the nitty-gritty details about the technicalities of the job and all these tiny little aspects that most people seem to actually be very thirsty of, you know? So what I feel is that when I do that with beginners and I tell them exactly, this is the sheet, you put the character on this side of the sheet and reserve this area for thumbnails. And these are very specific things. These are very different things from the classic, just gather some reference, think about your design aspects of the character, what kind of character it is, like think about the personality. This is very abstract. Like I feel like they want to know exactly where to place each thing, how to present this, like how do I show this design? And I feel like when I'm giving them those answers to those questions, it removes entirely that exploration, adventurous side of the story that they should be figuring out for themselves in the first place. Because if I do that for them, like it's pretty much the equivalent of me walking them by the hand through this whole story. They don't learn anything, you know, because you just handed everything done for them, basically. You told them exactly which buttons to press, how to not get lost down the way, how not to make mistakes. Don't press this button, press this one instead. You're giving them a formula, basically. And I feel like that removes that mystery of in my opinion, that's the cool part of the journey. Because it's politically incorrect. Like, what? You want them to suffer and to make mistakes and stuff? Yeah, I do. Because that's how you grow. That's how you grow. I mean, it's the discipline part, right? Like, oh, okay, I won't do that again, but I won't do it again because I know what happens if I do it. So it doesn't serve my purpose long term. But if someone just skips that part for you, you will never know what happens if you press that button. And it becomes that forbidden button that you will never know what happens if you press that, right? So I don't know how you guys see this, but that's something that crosses my mind every now and then.
I think that if you are actually teaching someone, that will never happen. Because if you give them a formula, then it's just like you said, right? You are taking their choice out of it, you know? Like you are taking the power to choose what it is that they're doing out of their hands. But if you're actually teaching them, what you're teaching is the critical thinking process behind the decisions that you made and not the final result. So you're not deciding for them what the final result will be like. You are putting demands on what it is that they need to do. And they are thinking and making the decisions about what it is that they'll present to you. So as an example, okay, let's say that you need that call out sheet and your student's kind of like not really super keen into doing it. the idea is not that like, oh, here's how you make it, and this is where like how the layout will be like, and this is where you put a character, this is where you put its props, this is where like you put materials or whatever. What I will do is, okay, pretend like I'm a 5-year-old kid, and I'll present this design to me, and here are the key aspects that I need to understand. And they will go into their own project. And the idea that I try to present to my students is that, okay, this is a blueprint building this thing of yours, but also the blueprint itself needs to be in universe, right? So let's say that you're doing, I don't know, a Mayan civilization kind of building, right? I want the page to look like a Mayan page or whatever that is, you know. I want the layout of the page to also be in story. I want you to think about the font that you choose. I want to think about like the placement of everything, how people would read this. I want you to think of how they would represent these materials. And like, you can, of course, come up with like different names and then put into like into quotes like the made up name that they invented in that civilization for that material, and then you put the real one kind of like to the side or whatever. But the idea is that I will never give them the solution for any problem that they need to solve for themselves. What I will do to them is I'll give them the kind of like the brief, you know, and they will have to solve that for themselves. They will have to understand that, okay, my job here is not to give you solutions. My job here is to give you even more problems to solve. And those problems are literally like what you need to solve. And then this is the day-to-day of a concept artist. I am giving you the experience of working. And then after this, like, you're basically trying to emulate what a job would do. Because it's one of those questions that people ask all the time, you know, like, oh, the junior job position asks for experience, but how will I get experience if I don't get a job position as a junior? And
it's a
that circle thing. Yeah, but it's not really, because the way that you get experience is by emulating that work, you know. And why that works is because then when people see your portfolio, it really doesn't matter that it was a personal project if what you did is what they want you to do on the day-to-day job. Because all they need is proof that you can do what they'll ask you for you to do. And if you prove that in your portfolio, that's even better. And then there's the whole question, like, what if they ask for an art test, and like, how do you deal with that? And that's like a whole other topic. But most of the time, the reason why people try to ask for tests is because your portfolio doesn't answer all of the questions that whoever is trying to hire you has about your skill set.
Yeah. Basically, just have the skills you need, like your core fundamentals and everything. Show that you can do the job, that you have a good understanding of what's supposed to work in a design. But yeah, I mean, just basically being a well-rounded artist. You know, it's not necessarily what you create, it's how you create it and how you get to these solutions. You know,
that's what they refer to as an asset, like you becoming an asset, right? Someone they can really count on for whatever it is, you know, because they trust you. They know that you're capable of facing this challenge, this design issue, whatever it may be, that you're going to nail it anyway. So yeah, in, you know, regarding what you said, Andre, I really reflected on this back in my high school days when I, you know, you would encounter one or two teachers that they would spark something in you, right? And what I realized is that there's this type of teacher that is like showing you, like, you can go down this route for these results, you can go down this route for these other results. The choice is yours, right? They're not like, oh, no, that's not how you do it, you're wrong. Look, this is how you do it. And you know what? It drove nuts everyone else in class, because they're like, this guy's like so philosophical, he doesn't make any sense, he always comes up with these kind of weird answers, you know. But now after I understood perfectly fine, like, the guy was not giving you like literal well-defined answers in order to not hinder that progress that we were talking about, right? He didn't want to make the choices for you. He wanted you to figure it out for yourself. So basically, if you do A, this happens. If you do B, this happens. Choice is yours, right? So I love that because it gives you a lot more power to, again, build yourself. You're figuring it out on your own based on the tools that they gave you, which is exactly what you were talking about with giving the students those tools, like to learn. You're basically giving them the puzzle pieces, right? All mixed up and stuff, and telling them, figure it out, right? Now, those puzzles might be more difficult or less difficult, but it's ultimately up to them to figure it out, right? You can give them the puzzle pieces, but you don't need to tell them, like, give them like a diagram on, like, this is how they go, you know, they just have to copy it. That's not fun. It's not, I don't know, it's pretty much defeating the creative process in itself, right? Because it's a creative field. It's up to you to decide how you want to pull this off. And this brings me to talk about this stuff where you use 3D or photo bashing or references or AI, or you take pictures of yourself, or you extract keyframes from a video you filmed of you making this weird pose for your character, right? It's literally whatever you can come up with. People sculpt things in clay, take pictures of them, and then they paint on top of it in 2D. Like, how crazy is that? Like, everyone is using whatever they have at hand, whatever they know, so it can help them rather than kind of distract them or, I don't know, stop them in their tracks during their creative process. So really, I think people just need this little slight push of confidence, because I feel like they know what they have to do. They have the answers, but they keep removing this power from themselves and trying to place it on someone else, someone like a mentor or someone who knows more than me. Like, you already know. You just need this slight push of confidence, you know, from someone who's been working for 20 years in this to tell you, like, yeah, that's actually how you do it. And then you go, oh, okay. So you keep going. And that's what builds this wheel, right? And I wish people could tap into this inner power that they already possess, instead of relying on someone else to tell them what to do, how to move, how to navigate through this map. Because that's the truth. You already know. You have the answers. You know you're on the right track. It's a creative field, and it's about you figuring out what works for you, right? Because I might tell you my story, and then it might not really fit with your worldviews or whatever you're onto right now. It might be like, yeah, but Adrian was rich. Like, he's got this, you know, upbringing. His parents were whatever, or I don't know, which is not true, by the way. It's quite the opposite. But yeah, I really hope that people can realize the reality behind what they hold inside, because it's really up to them. Everyone
looks at us at LightShare and thinks we're all rich.
Yeah, and I mean that's just a metaphor for like, you already
are you not?
You were born talented. You're born this. You're born that. Like, no one's born anything, right? You have to build yourself from the ground up. So that's the beautiful journey that we all go through.
We've kind of all seen where we've all started. You know, we've shown each other our very beginnings, like, many times.
Yeah.
And some people still don't believe that, like, oh, you can improve better, you can become better. It's like, that's impossible. It's genetics. It's this, it's that. It's yeah. Someone gave that to you.
It's talent, dude. That's the answer. I'm sorry to break it down to you guys, but yeah. If you're not born with it, sorry. Tough luck. No, but I understand why people get into that mindset, you know, like why they fall into the trap of following exactly the steps of someone else, because they want guarantees, right? But yeah, there are no guarantees. Like, you can't really guarantee success, even if you emulate someone who is successful. Like, that's what worked for them at that particular moment of their own lives, and the world was a different place as well when they, like, the guy that you are looking at probably did whatever it is that he did.
because they look at it out of context. They don't take account of the context, right? What surrounds it.
Yeah, exactly. Everything else, So like, if you look at the gaming industry in like just a couple of years ago, like 2020 or 2021, like right after the pandemic and everything, it was a completely different place in terms of the work possibilities, the amount of jobs available,
streaming and stuff like that, even with people on YouTube, Twitch, and stuff like that, because everyone wants to be a YouTuber once they see someone else making it, and then someone else making it as well, and then there's suddenly so many cases of very successful people who these kids that just at a very young age they already build like a huge following, and they start to be very successful. So it makes you desire. It's like the new, I want to be a cowboy when I grow up. I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a firefighter. Now it's like, I want to be a YouTuber, because it's what you see works. That's what they see. That is the new thing. I want to be a concept artist, like stuff like that.
But as we always say, it's the exception, not the rule. And I think people get that twisted, that like you could try it and fail at it and try to be successful at it, but just know that not everyone can become this, so you might have to sacrifice a few things if you want this.
And we're not discouraging it, by the way. This is just a message of like
not many people are willing to sacrifice, I feel.
And also there's the idea like, okay, there's only one of that guy that you admire, like you will not become him. You need to be like your own version of success. If he got into doing whatever it is that he's doing by, I'll use myself as an example. That way, like, I don't need to call anyone out. But the idea that I got into the position that I got by just drawing, maybe if someone else is literally just doing the exact same type of drawings, they will not get into that position, the world changed, everything changed, and you need to find like what current workflow will be the most desired, and what it is that people are looking for in a concept artist right now versus what they looked for whenever I was starting out. So thinking that it's all just formulaic like that, I just need to follow this formula, is not exactly wrong, because there are key aspects that remain the same, but it's also not the correct way to approach it. You need to understand, okay, what changed from that moment to like right now, and how can I adapt my own workflow to fit that, and how can I best show my own skill set with the new workflow, with whatever current technique is hot right now, with whatever technologies are hot right now, because I think that's part of why the whole AI thing got a lot of people scared, is because I think they don't look at it as a technology. They look at it as a kind of like menacing thing that will change whatever it is that they need to do. And instead of thinking of it, okay, this is just another like photo bashing, or just another, I'm discounting like all of the legal issues regarding to it, okay, just for the sake of the argument. But because people are not really scared because it's illegal, they are scared because they think that it will change their lives in a irreversible way. And if you think about it as a different technology, that fear kind of comes close to what the fear of photo bashing was in the beginning.
It's a new tool.
Yeah, it will change things for sure, right? Like, I'm not saying that it won't, but how much will it change, and the amount of power that you have over that change also means something.
It's what we always say. Oh, go ahead, Adrian.
No. What do we say, Dom?
Create your own stuff. That's how you kind of beat back AI, right? Like, have your own thing going on. Because what your voice brings to the table separates you from AI, essentially. right? Like no one can tell your story but you, and that's only through your experiences and your life. So for AI to replicate that, it's almost kind of impossible, you know? Like that AI would have to be you, essentially, which, yeah. But go on. What you're saying.
I'm just saying, I don't know exactly where my argument is going to go with this, but basically, let's say it's a possibility that in the future there might be some 100% AI made movies or games, right? That they might have an audience. Like, yeah, I know it's made by AI, but it's actually cool, bro. I like it, even though there's no human involved in doing any of that. And I'm saying this from the perspective of like the autonomy the autonomy of an AI to produce something on its own, which is currently not really it, because it's still a tool that you have to access and input some human kind of control, right? Like make this, make that. So you're basically commanding a tool to do things for you the same way you command Photoshop to make a new layer, delete this, make this brushstroke here, even though you're the one doing it, but it has to read and interpret these calculations in order to draw that thing on the screen. And then even if it gets to that point, like it doesn't erase your capability to create man-made stuff on your own, right? So when Andrea was talking about this earlier, I was thinking of the industrialization, the industrial revolution and stuff like that, when many things became automated in order to cut costs, and lots of people, I guess, lost their jobs, but it became a lot more efficient, which meant that they were able to produce the same thing in less time. And it's why there was this booming thing in so many replicas of the same thing. Like it's no longer what's the name for this, artisan kind of made, like it's handmade, like if it's handmade it takes a lot longer, but it's a lot more human, or I don't know how to define it. But if a machine does it, it might do 100 times more than you or 1,000 times more than you in the same time, but it might come at a cost of like imperfections here and there, because it, you have to sacrifice a lot of that precision sometimes. And I feel like this is probably what's going on with AI too. Even though it's a tool, it comes at a cost of like sacrificing some of the precision, especially when you craft like large scale things with it, right? And every time we mention AI, people's minds go immediately to the image generative type of AIs, right? But we have to understand that that's not what AI stops at, right? AI is already replacing so many other jobs in other fields that have to do with software engineering, coding, and stuff like that. And all of them have the same perception of how, but this is kind of in its young stage now. It's not perfect yet. It's not going to take our jobs. And the take our jobs kind of part is what scares most people, right? But I don't know. Photoshop didn't take our jobs. It actually created more jobs. And please don't take this out of context. I'm just addressing this issue from the most honest argument I can, right? Because I do see it, I think, the same way as you guys, as a tool. It's a tool. It's very powerful. Like we're talking about a significantly different scale if we compare it to the Industrial Revolution or candles and now, light bulbs. It's like not even remotely the same comparison in terms of scale of the advancement of it, but it's still the same in the sense of like, yeah, it will probably make some jobs die, but create even more jobs, right? Whereas this is something I was talking with some friends in the very, 2018 or something like that, years ago, right? I'm like, I think that this might be the new, in your CV, when you're applying for some regular job and you kind of say that you got a driver's license, which means you can drive and you can move, you can work on some remote place. You know how to use Microsoft Excel, Microsoft Word, and all these things. Like it means you know how to use a computer, right? what if those things I mentioned become the new, I know how to use Grok, I know how to use ChatGPT, I know how to use this, I know how, like, what if that becomes your new CV kind of requirements in the future? Who knows? It's still a job after all, but I'm just saying some crazy stuff here, but I do feel like that could be a possibility. And that doesn't mean that we no longer need people to make, the entertainment pieces that we see nowadays, games, movies, and all that stuff. But
yeah,
I don't know. You guys tell me. What do you think about that? I was not trying to get into this AI stuff, but since you guys brought it up.
Yeah, I know I kind of brought it up.
But yeah, I mean, just to keep it brief, I guess, like, we'll all have to adapt eventually to something that will happen in the future, whether we like it or not. But yeah, it's just a matter of time, and all you got to do is just keep going forward with your own voice and your own identity, and stop following like all these trends that you see online, because that will get you sucked and trapped into the whole AI doom and gloom thing, right?
Yeah, I think we were like, this all came from the talk of students' insecurities, So I think that's why we ended up talking about this, because it is a very relevant insecurity right now. And I think the solution for that's the same for the problem that we were discussing earlier. Like, okay, people giving their own critiques. This is where kind of how we ended up on the whole AI thing again.
Going back to the critiques, I guess. What else should students know about? Actually, there was that one comment on the other video that was asking about the pipeline from like a concept artist to an art director. Like, what does a concept artist do to take his or her work to the art director? Like, what are the steps?
Before we get into
you kind of get out of your desk and you roll up to your art director's desk with a sheet of paper.
Before we get into that, I just wanted to quickly add to what Andrea was talking about right before the AI stuff. It's this thing where you have to be speaking to the right person in the right place at the right time, right? Which is why what worked for you, if you try to replicate the same formula, might not work for me, right? Because you have to take into account so many other factors that surround this main target of yours. So you have to approach this with a critical perspective through a wide lens, right? Where you have to take into account so many things in the surrounding. That being said, we can get into the pipeline thing if you guys want to. So what does the pipeline look like, or what was the question? The concept art thing, right?
Yeah, how to bring, or like, how does it work? Like, from concept artist to art director, like, what does the job of a concept artist do for the team? But I think they're just asking, like, yeah, what do you give to an art director? Do you give like unfinished sketches? Do you give like more finished work?
I feel like this
line work?
The answer to that question would change from one individual to another because of your working experience, right? So if you've always worked with art directors who were just thankful enough for your unfinished sketches, then I don't know, that's your experience, like, hey guys, what I do is this, it looks like that, is not really finished, but it's enough for the art director. This kid watching this will be like, all right, then I'll do that. And he shows up, gets a job, and provides the art director with an unfinished sketch. And the art director goes like, oh, but this is far from finished. Like, this is not okay. And he's like, oh, but Dom said, so it can change.
We found the solution. Just blame Dom.
It can, it can vary a lot, right? So generally speaking, it's about speed. This is what concept art usually is about. It's meant to be fast. It's meant to be fast and efficient and just get the idea right. And don't worry about the details in the very beginning. There will be a polishing stage if and only if this design is approved.
Yeah.
And you have to think about it from a business perspective. Business, but I'm an artist. Yeah, you will have to learn about business too, right? At some point. So
not if you're a commercial artist.
Put yourself.
Then you'll have to know about business.
Yeah, put yourself in the shoes of the one who's hiring you, right? Think about the larger scope of the whole company and this project. Like, why do you think you're working? Where do you think that money comes from? Right? So they have to pay you for that, and they have to optimize every single penny, right? I know this might not always be the case. There's, room for leisure sometimes. It's like there's dead hours, like time you're not doing much, but they are paying you to provide results and to provide solutions to their problems. We always say this. It's such a boring thing, at this point. Like, what was the thing? I'm a problem solver. This is what my job is. I solve problems in design. Yeah, everything's a problem. Hey, we got this young character that's supposed to carry this very heavy sword. Figure it out. Like, make it look like it's believable. Okay, how do I do that? Oh, and by the way, he's levitating. It's like, what? But the sword is touching the floor all the time because he can't lift it up. What? Then how is he supposed to fight with it? Figure it out. That's your job. That's your problem to solve. So you encounter those kind of things. And speaking about the pipeline thing again, I know I'm kind of going on a tangent here, but you basically give them some sketches in the very beginning. Please don't make the sketches look the same. Okay, they have to show some variety, some different options. It's like, this is the same.
I find it funny because
I'll just turn on one.
Same exact
one
pose,
sketch.
Same exact character. The sword is not rounded anymore. It's like slightly pointy, like,
yeah.
Bro, the guy.
They changed one pixel and then okay, it's enough of a variation. Thank you. I'm getting my paycheck now.
The art director, whoever your supervisor is going to be like, but what's the difference? It becomes that game of like, find the differences, like it's so hard to spot. So give them like obvious different.
That's how you lose your job.
No, but if you do that, they're going to just tell you, stop making variations. Just give me, a few designs. And you're like, these are a few designs. No, it's the same design. You're just, changing little things. So stop making the same thing. Don't make so many variations of the same thing. And just provide me with some clear solutions.
It's even present in environments too. Like sometimes I'll ask you, give me 4 different lighting scenarios, and you can only give them one.
Yeah,
you're screwed.
It's like sunset. This is sunset with some clouds. This is sunset with more clouds. It's all sunsets.
It's like, no, you got to change the sunlight to 3/4 lighting. It has to hit this time of day at this certain horizon line at this,
Yeah.
So that's what they expect you to like know about weather patterns too, and like times of day and how the sun works in the atmosphere.
It's especially
not as complex, but just
I think it's especially tricky when your job sort of intersects with other kinds of jobs, like for instance level design and stuff like that, right? When you're building this specific location or environment, and you're thinking out of the box where like there's some stairs here, so the character comes this way, and then they can find the magical statue in the middle, but they have to activate it by moving over here, this other area, they have to climb this rope, and then you're thinking like a level designer, right? But you're not necessarily keeping into account all the technical aspects that the game engine is going to have to face when the environment artists or whoever is involved in that further stage in the production pipeline are going to face. So you're just doing it from your conceptual type of vision, right? You're a concept artist. So that's what you do. You give them ideas. Hey guys, I think it would be cool to have a statue in the middle. It's like a magical fountain kind of thing. And then the character wanders off this way. And then you have to go here, activate this, come back, blah, blah, blah. It's like a puzzle environment. Enemies storming in. You have to fight them, survive, then boom, keep going. They love this kind of stuff. Of course they love it. if that's within the brief, if that's within the scope of the project. If this is just I don't know, like what I said so far is like very like more sophisticated gameplay wise. What if they just need a like a more chill experience? You know, you're supposed to go through this area, peaceful, quiet, it's all nice. You don't have to do all that fancy stuff, even though you want to improve the designs with your additions, which is very similar to when they give you a brief on, like, let's say a character that's supposed to be looking more clean and stuff, and you keep adding more stuff and more stuff, and this too, and this too, and like more details. You kind of create this abomination of a character that looks cool to you, but to them it's like, bro, this is so far off the initial brief. What did you do? So yeah, it helps to have someone you trust to kind of call you out on those things if you don't know what you're doing, if you lose track. Because now we're getting into the eye fatigue kind of thing, which is when you sit for so many hours in front of the same piece, you start losing track of the big picture, of the colors, of the values. It looks good to you, but the next morning it sucks because now you're looking at it with fresh eyes, right? So take breaks every now and then. And
I wanted to...
yeah, you guys, please take it from here, because I feel like I'm just wandering into many different things that have very little to do with the pipeline stuff.
The other thing about feedback too, right? Like if your art director paints over your work, you better fix that shit. You know, like don't just ignore it and say, "Oh, I'm gonna do this instead," and your art director paints a perfectly rendered thing of what they actually need. You do the complete opposite.
Yeah, even if they do just like
their boss is gonna hate you.
Even if they do just like some scribbles on top of your designs, like try to mind those very wobbly lines as much as you can, because they have the intention, right? Like when they point something, they do this thing, this curve, this thing. Like try to emulate that as much as possible.
Actually, I could probably screen share like some notes that my art director gave me, just like a sample, just so like viewers can see like what's expected. The show's already out, so I mean, you guys, this is not really,
it's not NDA stuff.
Yeah, so this is like a sheet for, you know, the color scripts, for instance, right? And, you know, they'll say stuff like this, like, oh, this is the other designer's matte painting. Let's arrange the strike closer to the horizon to draw the eye. Let's put it closer to the center of the frame. There the focal point is from the boat. So they'll give you references. No lit boat in this shot. So make sure you don't like light this boat here. So yeah, then they'll say stuff like this. Too dark. Let's get some global illumination from the clouds. Desaturated blue-gray. Not too intense, but enough to show form on the set and characters. So they get very specific. And like, you kind of have to follow through exactly what they're telling you to do. Because if it's not on spec, then the lighting artist might do something completely different from like your script or whatever design, right?
Yeah, they need to light you, right?
Yeah, stuff like this. The art director will provide more reference for like these particles here, more embers. Ground spec should be tighter, less rough. We should see fire in it. So add more fire to like the ground and stuff here. Yeah, stuff like that. Like you have to really follow it to the T, because there were some instances where the art director might really go in and nitpick the design that you do, or the choices that you make, and sometimes you'll overlook it or ignore it, but they're like, you missed that little spot right there that's needed, that little speck on his nose. Make sure you add that in. You're like, holy cow. Okay, I have to go back and resend it. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, it's also worth thinking about it as like you are all working the same project together. So like, this is not his opinion or versus your opinion or whatever. It's like everyone is working together to make that design, or in your case, like the color script and the colors of that TV show as good as possible.
He's taking the information from the producers. The producers are sending it down to him, and then it's sending it down to me. And then it goes back up the pipeline and then back down and then back up again. So it's like this constant back and forth of like communication. Like everyone has to be on the same page. So
which is
you're
also
not doing
like work on your communication skills, you know, like if you are an artist, understanding how to listen to feedback, how to take it in, how to interpret whatever people are saying. Like that's also extremely important, because at the end of the day,
follow directions, basically. Follow instructions, be a good listener. That's really important, because a lot of people don't listen and they just do whatever they want to do and they screw up the whole process of what they're trying to work on, you know. So listen carefully, do exactly what they say. Don't try to fight the art director on it, because you're gonna be like, no, this is not my approval, this is the producer's approval. You know, I didn't say this, so you better fix what the higher up say. This is not what I said. So it gets that complex sometimes. It's like, okay, if they want that, I'll do it. That's all you gotta do.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that like you should if you have a better idea, you shouldn't voice it. It's just that you need to kind of understand when to, let's say, put your own thoughts out there, and when to just take that instruction and follow it through and through. Because the idea is that, okay, your opinion is also valuable, and if you're looking at this and you think you have a better idea of how to solve that particular problem, like I at least if you have a good art director, most of them will be open to the idea. And if you approach it nicely and like polite and everything, I really doubt that they will just like dismiss you completely. Yeah, that doesn't mean it doesn't happen, but it's just that odds are that they will not do that. But then, of course, like try to be sensible about it. The way that I would approach whatever like suggestions would be, always make sure that you have one option that covers whatever it is that they want completely, and then like on the side you do your own idea, and then they have the comparison, you know, kind of like, oh, this is what you suggested, but I thought that maybe we could do like this particular thing differently. And also like be reasonable, you know, like let your idea also solve the problem that his idea is trying to solve. So using the sunset idea, right?
Yeah, like make it make sense. That it's not just some personal preference you're kind of sticking in there, you know.
If the scene requires a sunset, don't come with like a midnight scene and say like, oh, I think it will look better this way, you know.
Yeah.
Because then you are literally just giving him no other option other than dismiss whatever it is that you're trying to tell him.
I think there's some nuances between like video games and animation. I'm not sure like exactly how the video game pipeline is, but in animation they kind of already like pay for most of these assets beforehand, so they want it exactly like that. Like everything has to be accurate in animation. But I feel like for games there's a little bit more leeway, because you can continuously like experiment with these designs, see what works, see what doesn't. But with animation, it's like you're kind of locked into these designs already, so you kind of have to already follow what's there. There's like a little bit of leeway, but not that much, just for people to know.
The main difference, I would say, is the interactive camera kind of thing, because depending on where the camera is in the video game, you will stay locked to what the camera is, or you can explore freely, right? So as opposed to a movie where you're locked to whatever the camera decides to show because you're locked to that frame specifically, you don't necessarily need to build the rest of the set, right? But in a video game, in a video game, if it's
you can
like,
hide certain things.
In a video game, you have to build pretty much everything around it. If it's a game about moving freely around and exploring in sandbox style, right? Free open world and stuff like that, then you will have to, and then you have to account for events and how this specific, think of like an epic fantasy game, like there's this region that is always like very hazy and like, this kind of mood. Then you have to think about the different times of day, how the lighting affects this same castle thing, this building you have in front of you at different times of the day, and what it looks like in this lighting, what it looks like at midnight, everything we discussed before. In a movie, you can kind of restrict that to one specific shot, which is when you need that asset for, and it has to look like this, and you can tweak the lighting and all that stuff. There's a lot of faking things that I think people miss when they watch a sequence of, I don't know, like a scene in a movie, or because it doesn't look like that in real life. There's a lot of those black panels that absorb light because you don't want any bounce light on this side of the character. Like a lot of photography and portrait stuff involved, a lot of camera lens understanding. I do feel like knowing a little bit of everything, like even what Andrea is doing right here, right now, and we've had Alice on our show a few years ago. She was bridging this organic anatomy with the mechanical aspects of this
that's so cool
sci-fi world, right? Of like hard surface design and stuff like that. So she was able to create a dog-like creature using her knowledge about the mechanical aspects of a vehicle, a tank, or something completely unrelated, right? And then make it look like that dog is actually built like one of these Boston Dynamics dogs or something, like the robots kind of thing. So learning a little bit about the world around you, which is something that we've been extensively talking about for so many times, like getting out there, get to walk around a little bit, touch some grass, and get excited and curious about the world around you. Study what you love, observe everything you're interested in, and try to put that into your work, because one day it will have its payoff. Like it will be important for you. Like, I'm saying this, guys, because it's true. Like,
but video games are enough, bro.
You'll get that job, and then you're gonna have your moment of like, I remember 7 years ago, that trip, the way the sun was shining through those, this is the perfect time to put it into this at work. Like everything has a place and a time in your story. So just be mindful about lots of moments. You'll be surprised where your inspiration might come from at times. So and you can play video games all you want, for sure. You can watch movies and read books and stuff like that, but I would say the real thing is out there.
So crazy how people prefer to just go into an open world game and find reference rather than exploring the real world. But they got this sandbox feature that I can just drop myself into, and I don't have to.
But it's pre-digested, right? Why not go to the raw thing? It's almost like the same analogy with ArtStation. Like, I'm gonna look for some inspiration on ArtStation. Like, bro, what? Like, why would you look at what someone else did, someone else's work, and this someone is a human being, an artist that had to go through the same process of like gathering some references from real world or whatever else, and then putting it into their work, posting it for you to watch that and say, wow, that's so inspiring. I'm going to do my own thing now with this. Like, it's of course not going to be the only driving aspect of your work. You're going to be putting a lot of you in your work, right? a lot of your
possibilities are endless.
Yeah.
Like if you go outside in nature and you take a drone, for instance, and shoot it over a mountain, like that's already a different perspective that a lot of people don't really take, right? Or, you know, you standing on a cliff taking a picture at this valley or something, like that's something that you can't really replicate what's online, right? Because that's from your eyes. It's not from someone else's lens.
And I'm just thinking how perfect this is for someone to attack you, you know, because you're reducing this to the privileged ones that have access to like beautiful places in nature and stuff. What a, you know, like if you look if you live in a place that's very urban or like dark, you know, like I don't know, lots of buildings and stuff and very little nature, that's also inspiring. You know, like you will ultimately put that in your work somehow. Because if you guys think about this, all of these, I don't know, musicians or artists of any kind, they're all carved by their own life experience. You see, I'm thinking of rappers for some reason at this very moment, and how what they've been through in their lives is what they put in their lyrics for their songs. Right? So This is no different. Like I had my life experiences, you guys had yours, and it somehow reflects through your work. And to the ones watching and listening this, it's going to be the same most likely. Because what else are you going to make art based on, right? You're not going to dedicate your
other
life
people's work.
Yeah, it's like it doesn't make much sense. I mean, if that's up your alley, go for it. You know, I'm just saying it's likely going to be based on your own interests.
But my life's not that interesting, Adrian. How do I make it interesting?
Oh man!
I mean,
let's wrap it up.
I don't know what to say.
Go make it interesting then.
Look, it's been an hour.
Some people are insufferable.
An hour and something. We can probably wrap up this episode, but yeah, go on, Andre.
No, just to like circle back to why we even started the episode, because I think we derailed it quite a little bit. But the idea was that look for advice on like with people that already made it to where you want to get, but also take that with a grain of salt. And if you are taking advice from your friends and peers that are in a similar spot in life that you are at, just make sure that you understand what it is that you want to get out of that, you know, because it can be the road to frustration if you listen all the time, like your friends saying that you are super amazing, and then you apply to job after job and you never get it. The idea is that there's probably something missing that even your friends, because they are in a similar spot that you are not noticing. And you need someone that will not only notice that, but will give you honest feedback on it. So, like, there's not a problem in having a community of similar skilled people. That's like actually pretty good, and I recommend people having it. But make sure that you understand what it is that you're getting out of every interaction that you have, so that you don't get yourself frustrated or even your friends frustrated. Because you might tell, like, with a very good heart, you know, you might just tell them that you think their stuff is awesome, and in reality, they're not even coming close to what's needed. And I mean, I think we should take the responsibility to be honest with our friends in our own hands, and make sure that everyone has a realistic view of where they are at and how to improve if they want to do so.
Yeah, tell them the truth.
Very true.
But then
don't be delusional.
Then they might say like, oh, okay, but I don't know anyone in the industry. I don't know any person of that profile.
Like, it's 2025, have internet. There's no, come on. Like, I will not take that.
Great point. So I should DM them, right? There's a process.
DM like 500 people, if no one answers, then like you are probably not DMing them correctly.
We talked about
I was discussing this with
too. Like,
yeah, exactly. Tell him.
Yeah, just don't copy paste what you said to like 500 different people. Actually make your message intentional. Like, people can sense that you want something from them, like a job or a portfolio review or anything that requires a favor, right? Instead of getting to know who the artist is, like their backstory is, and you can learn from that too, instead of just getting something from the artist. So I think that's the mistake that a lot of beginners make, is it's the interactions kind of like what's another word for, not fake, but like artificial.
It's the whole thing we were talking about, taking
superficial,
taking like, hey Dom, how's your life, like hey, by the way, can you take a look at my portfolio? Like, they don't really
just sliding
care.
that in,
like,
hey, you look at this.
And it's not like you're demanding them to kind of build a relationship with you somehow, like, hey Dom, how are you today, how are you, what did you do this weekend? Like, I'm not saying that they don't have to get there, but it's sometimes pretty obvious, right, that they're using that initial nice kind of message to kind of slide in the real topic, which is, please take a look at my portfolio and tell me. So
I think it's like, people don't get weirded out if you're honest up front, so
totally
if
not, which
if the goal is to get a portfolio review, be upfront about it. Like, don't try to take side routes or anything like that. Just straight up say it, and then your relationship with that person is based on honesty, which means that, okay, now like you're working with this, on the same page, like you are all on the same page, and then he can give you like his critique, and then afterwards, if by any chance you guys have something in common that you want to talk about, you actually, like, both of you like the same hobbies or whatever, then it will like be much more natural, and like it will keep each aspect of your guys' relationship where they should belong. So like, if you have something in common, you talk about that. If you don't, that's like perfectly fine as well. Like, you don't need to have something in common with everyone, and then you make sure, like, that will lead to actual truthful friendships, and
you might work
like
together one
good
day.
Relationship.
You never know.
Yeah, exactly.
I think people have this problem of pedestalizing people they look up to, and we're all just human beings at the end of the day. We all do the same. We have normal families, we have normal friends, just like everybody else. And just treat people like humans, not someone who's above you or like they have all the answers or something. It's like we're also trying to figure it out too, because it's not the end of learning.
I wanted to follow up the topic I brought up with the second part of it, which is, sending those DMs to people in the industry and stuff like that. Hey, give me some advice on my portfolio and stuff like that. Oh, that's so cold, bro. Like, don't do that. It looks like not genuine or whatever. It's most likely not like that. Like, they can reply to you with a kind message of like, oh sure, yeah, I'll take a look whenever I have the time, right? But the best thing you can do is to make them feel like they didn't waste their time giving all that effort, like putting all that effort into their reply, and their, like, you might even get lucky enough to get a call with them or something like that, so they can take a look at your stuff in real time, right? The best thing you can do for them is to make them feel like it was worth it, right? Because it really is. Like, what they're sharing with you is like the knowledge that they've been acquiring through years, if not decades, of work and experience, and they're just handing it out to you for free. They're not even charging. They're not even asking anything. Like, there's these mentorship programs and stuff like that out there, right? They're worth quite a bit of money, especially for someone who's just starting out. So if you get to experience this for free, like how awesome is that, right? Like it's free knowledge, free, condensed in like a single call for you. The best thing you can do is to put it into practice, which rolls back to the apply the feedback from your art director kind of thing, right? This is very similar. Hey, this is my portfolio, and someone's telling you, oh, this is off. This character here could be this character, this environment, this. Take notes, apply that, transform your portfolio. Don't wait until I'll apply this to my next piece. That was me at the very beginning. Every single time I would get feedback and I would say, oh, thank you so much, man. Yeah, I won't change it on this one. I'll wait until the next piece and then I'll implement that. But that never works because the next piece is never going to be the same as this piece. The next piece will have a different kind of feedback and you won't know it. So please just don't hesitate. Just apply it straight up. If you don't want to delete your previous portfolio for some reason, just create a copy of the same portfolio but changed or revised or feedback. Name it whatever you want and apply the feedback and see, kind of compare it yourself, see the changes. Put it side by side and see how much is improved.
I've lost count.
But I bet when that guy is going to see that you actually put it into practice, he's going to feel like this kid is the real deal. Like he's going to make it, bro. Like he's got the mindset. He did what I told him to do. That's amazing. Like that's already a big step.
Yeah. I've lost count of how many times juniors have come up to me and, made me fix their portfolio and they didn't fix it at all. And then couple months later they get mad at me for not helping them. Yeah.
Why?
It's like this didn't work out, or I'm still jobless. Like, did you fix what I told you to do? Well, it's
kind of,
I tried to, but just didn't really do it. No, I didn't do it. And then they just get depressed and get lost, and you're just like, dude, why do I even bother?
You can give them the formula 1,000 times, right? I'm giving you the map, literally. This is the map you have to follow. But halfway through, they somehow give up, and they take a break, and something happens. I gave you a map. What the hell happened? Yeah, I couldn't follow it because, it's a simple map, bro. All you have to do is follow this road. That's it.
It's not even a GPS, dude. It's a map. Come on.
Yeah.
But even better, these kids have GPSs now. We had the
how the hell do you expect me to follow? The car is not even driving itself. Come on.
Yeah, but that's the thing, right? What you're giving to them is some precarious type of knowledge, Dom. This is not modern stuff. This doesn't fit in within my current views. This is old school stuff, Dom. Come on, man. That's why I'm not getting
the modern world.
It's just clearly your fault, Dom. Come on.
Yeah.
Whatever you say.
Look, some things never get old, and this is exactly a part of it. I remember this from the first years I was finally getting serious about this concept art thing, and I was so obsessed with the 2D versus 3D thing, and someone pointed out that some forum, I forgot exactly where it was, but 3D is ever changing because there's new technical stuff that changes when programs are invented, and now there's this new version of this program and blah blah blah. But 2D, the fundamentals always stay the same. Always. It's the same thing for years, right? Centuries, thousands of years. It's always been the same thing. Perspective, anatomy, values, color, light, all that stuff. It's been always the same thing. So, yeah. With that being said, I guess we can wrap it up. If you guys want to... If you have any closing statements, go on.
Yeah, thank you guys for this episode. We hope you found it enjoyable and got something out from it. Always remember to fix your work. Do as people tell you to do if they're more experienced. at least follow through with what they're helping you with. Don't just ignore it, right? It's very valuable information, and a lot of times these people put aside their responsibilities for you. So at least try and respect them, and you'll do great in your own career. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't ask advice for not going to follow it. So, and then if you do ask for the advice, just make sure that you follow it through, and then, I mean, just be reasonable. I don't think it's too much to ask. So,
Right on.
By the way, that vehicle is looking so cool.
Yeah, bro.
but you are my friend. I can't not ask for your help.
Right.
It reminds me of
Why am I not
F1.
telling
Sorry.
him? Damn, that wing is so off, bro. And that engine in the far back.
Yeah, I know. Like, come on.
That was perfect. It's totally perfect.
Flawless, bro. All right, guys.
Insane.
Take care. We hope to
Bye,
see you in
guys.
the next episode. And thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Yeah, guys.